The genius plan. We start with an island that is literally named Snake Island, because apparently Death Trap was already taken. Naturally, we have 4 men whose entire business model is catching deadly reptiles for spare change. Their strategy? Tie a piece of chicken to a rope and dangle it into a dark tunnel. It's high-stakes fishing for people who clearly don't have health insurance. The plan is going great until Cynthia, yes, that's his name, feels a tug on the rope. Instead of catching a python, the rope snaps like a cheap shoelace. Now, a normal person would take that as a sign from the universe to leave. But not Cynthia. He decides the best course of action is to crawl headfirst into the pitch-black tunnel. Because why wouldn't you want to hand-deliver yourself to a predator? Inside, he realizes the tunnel is massive and filled with a strong sense of danger. No kidding, Sherlock. He screams for his friends to pull him out, but his buddy Arbin, who clearly skipped the How to Be a Reliable Friend seminar, thinks this is the perfect time for a comedy routine and starts tickling his feet. While Arbin is busy playing footsie, Cynthia gets snatched into the abyss. Suddenly, Arbin realizes it's not a joke when a snake latches onto his arm. The trio finally decides that maybe, just maybe, they should run. They scramble back to their boat in the pouring rain, where Arbin starts having a midlife crisis over his poor life choices. The vibes on the boat are immaculate, and by that, I mean everyone is screaming. Suddenly, the boat gets hit by something the size of a submarine. One guy, who the script calls Dabbing, an unfortunate name for an even more unfortunate fate, falls into the water. Arbin tries to be a hero, but he spots a giant snake looming behind Bamian like a shadow. The snake deletes Dabbing from the server, then launches Arbin into the air like a rag doll and eats him before he even hits the ground. Now we're left with Bamian, who decides that now is the time to negotiate. He starts begging the 50-foot monster for his life, promising to never catch snakes again. Spoiler alert, the snake doesn't care about his career change. It turns out the creature was just following its stolen eggs, sitting right next to a camera. Bamian gets his final curtain call, and we move on. The snake whisperer arrives. A few days later, we meet Shen, a professional snake rescuer who probably has a very interesting LinkedIn profile. A woman drags him to her house because her husband, a man who clearly lacks common sense, brought home some cool eggs he found. Shen explains that the mother snake is basically a reptilian John Wick coming for her kids. Shen rushes upstairs to find the husband and child being cornered by a venomous snake. Does Shen use a gun? A net? No, he uses a rope and captures it in seconds. He then hits the kid with some classic, "Snakes aren't bad. Your dad is just a thief," wisdom. Shen's friend MFA, a name that sounds like a degree, shows up with a news report about the boat massacre. Shen immediately heads to the Wildlife Protection Association to tell them there's a 15-meter Titan python out there. The senior officer, Joe, hits him with the "It's extinct" card. But Shen has the ultimate receipts, Damien's camera footage. While the government is shocked, a businessman named Penn is worried his illegal Snake Island resort project is going to get cancelled. He hires a black market hunter named Jin to stop Chen at any cost. Gin, being a professional movie villain, smirks and accepts payment in gold. Because nothing says "I'm the bad guy" like a bag of gold coins in 2026. Welcome to the jungle. It's worse than you think. Our dream team, Shen, Joe, and a guy named Finn, set sail for Snake Island. Shen, who apparently has Hawkeye vision, spots the villainous Jin and his band of merry mercenaries heading to the same spot. It's officially a race to see who gets eaten first. Jin's crew lands and immediately starts breaking every rule of survival. A guy named Muto decides the middle of a prehistoric snake-infested jungle is the perfect place to step away for a private bathroom break. His dog starts barking at the bushes. Classic, we're about to die, foreshadowing, and then bolts. Muto freezes, which is a great strategy if you're a statue, but less effective when a giant cobra is rushing you. Muto stumbles back to camp, looking like he's seen a ghost, and the cobra follows him like an uninvited party guest. While everyone else is losing their minds, a girl and two guys step out of a tent and, I kid you not, start playing rock, paper, scissors to decide who has to deal with the 10-foot venomous nightmare. Hong wins the honor, steps up, and bags the cobra like he's picking up a grocery order. Talk about a weird flex. Shen arrives just in time to start an argument. He tells Gin to release the snake because Shen is that guy who reminds the teacher about the homework. Gin challenges him to a fight, and Shen, being a former soldier, absolutely bodies him. But since this isn't a fair fight, Gin's men pull guns. Gin tells them to stand down though, because he's clearly pivoting to a let the monsters do the work strategy. The rotten fish cottage. Night falls, the rain starts, and the vibes go from bad to horror movie cliche. Shen leads the group to his grandfather's old cottage. Pro tip: if a house in the woods smells like rotten fish, do not go inside. But of course they do. Inside, they find the remains of Arbin. Remember him? The foot tickler? Yeah, he's been partially digested and spat back out. Joe confirms he was swallowed whole, which is a lovely image to have before dinner. They block a giant hole in the wall with some furniture, because a wooden chair is definitely going to stop a Titan python, and try to relax. Moin finds an old photo of the monster, proving Shen's grandpa wasn't just telling tall tales. Suddenly, they realize the door is locked from the outside. Classic Jin. Then Arbin's corpse starts moving. No, he's not a zombie. There's just a venomous snake using him as a sleeping bag. Shen tosses it away, but Moin gets bit by a second snake. It's a bad day for Moin. Before Shen can even help, one of Gin's henchmen sneaks in and paralyzes Shen with a syringe. So now our hero is a human statue, Moin is dying, and snakes are closing in. Outside, another henchman tries to kidnap Joe with bad intentions, but the Titan Python shows up for a surprise cameo and eats him instantly. Honestly, the Python is the most productive character in this movie so far. Joe escapes back inside, follows Shen's muffled instructions, and manages to give them the antidote. Proof paternity and poor decisions. The next morning, they find a shed skin the size of a highway lane. This is the proof they need. But then they find Jung, Gin's brother, looking like he went through a blender. Shen, being a saint, saves him too. Joe notices some strange liquid on Jung and realizes the python is in labor. Great. A 50-foot snake with mood swings. They take Jung back to Gin's camp. Gin tries to pay Shen in gold again, but Shen just wants the snakes released. Gin says nah, so Shen takes a vehicle and leaves. While they're driving, Joe finally reveals her true colors. She wants a python egg for scientific proof. Shen hits her with the I'm from the Snake King family lore, explaining he's there to protect them, not rob them. Suddenly the python crosses the road. Instead of driving the other way, they decide to chase it. Because why not? Their car gets blocked by Jin's goons, and a brawl breaks out. While Shen is busy knocking out Hong, Joe sneaks off to the python's cave alone. Inside the cave, she finds the eggs. She's about to grab one when a hand grabs her leg. It's the guy from earlier who got eaten. Apparently he survived inside the snake's stomach. I have questions about the biology here, but Joe doesn't. She throws a jar of snake venom in his eyes, brutal, and escapes. In the struggle, an egg gets smashed, the python returns, and the stomach survivor finally gets evicted from life for good. Joe makes it back to the car, and Shen asks the million-dollar question, "Did you take anything?" Joe lies. But the 50-foot snake screaming behind the car is a pretty big hint that she took a souvenir. The excellent finale. Everyone's a traitor. We're back in the car, and Joe is doing her best I'm innocent face, while a prehistoric monster is literally trying to bite the bumper off. Shen, who has apparently developed a psychic link with bad decisions, realizes the snake isn't chasing them for their sparkling personalities. It wants its kid back. Moyne checks Joe's bag, and, surprise, there's a giant reptilian omelette-to-be inside. Before they can play hot potato with the egg, Jin and his mercenaries surround them. And here comes the plot twist nobody, except literally everyone, saw coming. Joe wasn't a dedicated civil servant. She was a corporate spy on a contract, basically a slightly more fashionable version of Jin. Her mission was to steal the egg, and now the secret is out, along with the 15-meter python that is currently the only honest character in this movie. The human bait buffet, Jin, who clearly watched too many Bond movies, decides to skip the negotiation and captures everyone. He ties up Shen and Moyne and tosses them into a shipping container. Then, in a move that is peak villain logic, he pours animal blood all over them. Why? To use them as live bait to lure the Titan Python. Because nothing screams successful businessman like using people as giant appetizers. It works immediately. The Python shows up smelling the buffet, but Shen uses his Snake King family plot armor to free himself and Moyne. They're about to escape when Jin, watching on CCTV, like he's producing a very messed up reality show, locks the container. Joe suddenly grows a conscience, or maybe just realizes she's next on the menu, and frees herself. She grabs Jin's brother, Young, and holds a knife to his throat. It's a classic standoff, but instead of talking, she climbs the container and opens a hatch just as the python is about to make Shen a permanent resident of its digestive tract. The boat trip from hell. Chaos erupts. It's a free-for-all brawl between Shen's team and Gin's goons. Hong tries to go toe-to-toe with Shen, but the python decides it's tired of the choreography and just eats Hong mid-fight. Moyne, in a moment of I'm done with this, opens the container door, letting the monster loose on everyone. The python kills Jung, which sends Jin into a full-blown final boss rage. He grabs a massive woodcutting blade, because apparently he brought his landscaping tools to a snake fight, and tries to decapitate Shen. Moyne saves the day again, knocking Gin down. Meanwhile, Joe grabs the egg and runs for the boat. She's halfway to freedom when Gin catches up and starts a one-man wrestling match with her. Shen and Moyne arrive, just as Jin is using Joe as a human shield. Joe bites his hand, classic, and just as Jin is about to regain control, the python boards the boat. It's a very crowded boat. Shen finally makes the executive decision that common sense should have dictated an hour ago. Give the baby back. He takes the egg, ready to return it, but Jin, blinded by greed and a complete lack of self-preservation, attacks the python with a knife. The python naturally ends his contract permanently. The moral of the story, hide everything? Silence falls. The python picks up its egg with its mouth and just walks, slithers away. It turns out that if you don't kidnap a monster's children, it's actually pretty chill. Who knew? Joe, now covered in mud and regret, apologizes for her slight betrayal and asks if they have any proof left to save the island. Shen looks at the last photo his grandfather took, the final piece of evidence. Then he hits us with the deep philosophical closer. If you really want to protect something, sometimes it's better to keep it hidden. He tosses the photo into the ocean. The island remains a mystery. The snake gets to live in peace. And Shen presumably goes back to his day job of telling kids their dads are thieves.